we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. And you know what, people? Feeling a little bit better. The tightness through my chest, it's still there, but I'm not having the same pains when I breathe in. Now I'm getting to the point where it's just sort of I move the wrong way. I'm certainly feeling it, but other than that, I think it's certainly waning. Right, waxing is when it's getting, but yeah, it's certainly waning. So it's probably a good thing. I'm feeling a lot more like myself than I was, which is good. So tonight, people, I'm going to jump right into it. If you saw the thumbnail, and I hope most of you did because it's a good one, but if you saw the thumbnail, talking today about repetition, and this is a subject we have sort of danced around, but I don't know that it's ever been put out the way that we're going to be discussing it tonight. And repetition, truthfully, is either the best friend or the worst enemy of people in sobriety. And the cool thing, people, is that I had a chance to, I was speaking with one of my best friends today, a gentleman from Australia, whose name shall remain anonymous. And he was talking about some stuff that goes on in his life and his journey of sobriety. It's one of the exact same things that goes on in mine. And it's a pretty cool illustration of the whole repetition thing, because I assume that almost everybody is going to be talking about, assuming that I'm going to be talking about making your bed, doing the things that, and I'll be honest, those are all important things as far as repetition goes. And I'll probably touch on them a little later, but really, I'm trying to hammer home the fact that regardless of what you're doing, right, whether or not you're drinking every single day at 6 o'clock, or you're coming here every single day at 6 o'clock sober, whatever you're doing and you're doing in repetition is going to become part of the habitual stuff that you do in your life. And if those things that you're doing on a daily basis are drug related, I assure you, people, that it's going to keep you addicted to drugs. There's no way around this. It's a stone cold fact. But there are some subtleties to this that don't slap you in the face quite the same way as, hey, you need to make your bed. You need to make sure you're not going to the same places that you used to hang out. All of the stuff that should be real obvious when we start talking about changing your habits. But so I was talking to Alan, and whose name will not remain anonymous for too much longer. And we were talking about how from time to time, things just sort of crawl into your memory. And I think everybody in recovery goes through this. And it's an odd phenomenon to the whole recovery life, that you'll be sitting and doing whatever, right? You'll be tapping away on the computer or watching something on TV or talking to a friend or whatever. And in a split second, your mind will be back to a memory from your drug past. And it'll have nothing, I mean, nothing to do with what's going on in your life. Like there is no reason whatsoever that your head should have gone here. You know, I'm watching something about watches and repairing watches, and he's talking about vintage stuff from the 50s or whatever. And the next thing you know, in my head, I am back to a sitting in an apartment complex with three people that I really didn't know. They're no longer a part of my life, and we were waiting for drugs to be delivered. And there was nothing particularly eventful that happened that day. It wasn't like, this was some awe-inspiring thing, and it was traumatic or it was amazing, or no, it was just another day in the life of a drug addict. But for whatever reason, boom, that will be right in the forefront of my mind, and there's no getting rid of it. And all of a sudden I was like, what the hell just happened? You know what? Why am I even thinking of this memory? One that I assure you I haven't thought of or spoken of in a very, very long time, if ever. But there it is. Boom. This will happen to me sometimes 5, 6, 7 times a day. And when I was talking to my friend about this, he said, yeah, the exact same thing happens to me. He said, this is something, and my bobbleheaded partner, by the way, is doing this number. So obviously it happens to him. And the unusual thing is, it's an opportunity. And I didn't view it as such. And I had already put up the title of the program, and I had already thought about kind of where I was going with it. I had some bullet points that I wanted to touch on or whatever. But he said every time one of those memories crawls into his head, he tries to think about what happened wrong in that situation. And obviously people doing drugs is probably not a great thing for those of us who are addicted. So that's a glaring one. But, as an example, let's say I'm thinking about a situation where, like, I was in that apartment, on that same day, I was also texting someone and lying about where I was because I was supposed to be someplace at a certain time. And you're not going to go and do that by any stretch of the imagination. You're not going to do anything until the drugs get delivered, because nothing in the world is more important than that. So I remember texting back and forth. I don't remember who I was texting, but I remember it would chirp off and I would go, oh man, yeah, and tell another brief lie. I got caught in traffic, or there was a guy in front of me that, whatever. And it was one lie after another to keep stretching this out, because the gentleman delivering the substance was telling us, I'll be there in 5 minutes. I'll be there in 5 minutes. I'll be there in 5 minutes. And this went on for hours. And for those hours I was sitting there, and I never viewed that as an opportunity. But since these things are popping into my head 5, 6, 7 times a day, sometimes, what an opportunity to cement your sobriety in place. Because now, instead of just going, well, that's a really odd memory, what the heck is that thing doing jumping into my brain? I can sit and think to myself, you know what? It wasn't even about the fact that I was sitting there waiting on an illegal transaction so that I could stick a needle in my arm, right, which is all stupidity, right? Glaring stupidity. But what a dishonest human being that I was, and how everything was more important than that guy showing up. There was nothing more important than that. And the proof of that is I remember that instance so well, but I don't remember who I was texting, because that lie was insignificant. The person that was texting me was insignificant. Everything in my life, except that guy coming to the door, was insignificant. And taking an opportunity to think about that, I think it does a couple of things. Number one, painfully, obviously, it really hammers home the repetition, right? It really hammers home why I need to be a sober individual. It really points out to me exactly, who I was, right? That's pretty obvious stuff. That repetition is there, and then it can help. But more importantly, I believe it's an opportunity to put memories like that to bed. You keep coming back to these ridiculous memories that don't seem to have any significance in your life. Well, when you tie that to something that now is no longer just a vacuous memory. Now this is something real. This is something tangible. This was me being a dirtbag. This was me being a liar, me being a dishonest person and lying to somebody that obviously cared about me, because if it was anybody else in the world, I could have just said, hey, I'm waiting on the dope man. I will call you when I am damn good and ready. The fact that I was texting a lie meant that this was probably somebody that was an important person in my life, because that's how it was back then, right? You didn't have to lie to the dirtbags in your life. You only had to lie to the ones that you loved, because they cared about you and didn't want you doing the things that you were doing. But what a golden opportunity to try to rid yourself of these. Well, they're not just memories, are they? I mean, truthfully, it's not just memories. Those are automatic negative thoughts. They may be masquerading as memories, but it's just your brain's way of taking another opportunity to try to suck you back into a lifestyle, right? It's just going to pump these ridiculous, stupid memories for no apparent reason into your life. And the more people that I talk to, the more that I realize that this is a phenomenon that happens to everybody, right? Everybody in recovery has these brief moments of clarity where all of a sudden the most vivid and real memory from your past pops into your head. And for, I don't know, 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever the case may be, it's not going anywhere. People, that's all you're going to think about. Why not take that opportunity to make that fly? There's other times every single day. And this is something that I've been doing for this June will be 7 years. But there are so many opportunities now that I have a chance for repetition in hammering home my sobriety, nailing it down, tying it up, whatever you want to, whatever cliche you want to use, but to really truthfully and honestly anchor my sobriety. We were talking, about how you never say you're never going to use again, right? Don't say that. They tell you, whatever you do, don't say that. I feel rock solid in my sobriety. And I'm not telling you this is a brag. I'm not telling you this in any way, like anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is explain that when you get to the right place in sobriety, you're not going to have to sit and concentrate on it. It's not going to have to be, I'm not saying that you're not going to have to take time every single day to remind yourself, but the way to make that happen is to take all of those opportunities of repetition. Perfect example. Today I had to go out and buy some stuff, right? It was just part of my business. I needed some packing things, and I had sold off some watches, and I needed to go get some stuff so that I could get them in the mail. And I was watching a guy walk down the street, and his hand was going to his pocket every 4 seconds. He would take about 4 or 5 steps and he would touch his pocket, and he would take 4 or 5 more steps and he would touch his pocket. And then he would take, and I knew exactly what he was doing, right? That's where his dope was. And if it wasn't his dope, it was his pipe. But that had something to do with this dude's drug habit, because I used to be that guy. I used to be the person that I just wanted to know it was there, man. I don't know, maybe a hole would magically appear in the pocket and somehow this stuff would disappear, or it would just evaporate or whatever. But knowing that was there, just giving it a touch and feeling that ball of poison in my pocket gave me a sense of calm that was almost akin to using the stuff, right? Just knowing it was there was a very big deal. And it was something that I had to do. And I would catch myself doing it. And I would think, I wonder how many people are watching me do that. I got to stop doing that. And then I would take 4 steps and I'd give it a tap, except this time I would just sort of swing my hand by. So you're just going to give it the back brush. So it wasn't as obvious that I was, grabbing at it. But when I looked at that guy, as opposed to going, yeah, he's got dope in his pocket, right? I thought about me. And I thought about the amount of time that I spent doing that stupid, ridiculous dance. I thought about the time in my life, right? The thousands of days of my life that little ball of poison in my pocket was the most important thing in the world. And I couldn't even take 6 steps, trusting it wasn't going to find a way to magically evaporate or escape from my pocket. It only took 3 or 4 seconds, people. But I promise you, every single time you take an opportunity to look back at who you were and where you were and compare it to where you are today, you are anchoring that sobriety. I mean, in a tangible, no joke, this is nuts and bolts stuff kind of way. I do it every morning, right? And I don't just mean making the bed, people, although that's a big one. But when my eyes open in the morning, my first thought these days could be about whatever. A lot of it has to do, depends on what I was doing the night before. This morning, my first thought was about an auction that I knew was coming up that I was going to be bidding on. And I wanted to make sure that, I had an alarm set and all those things because you can accidentally miss out on things. So that was my first thought this morning. But right after I had that first thought, it occurred to me that it's beautiful to wake up and your first thought not to be about dope. And once I got chemical free, I don't mean, sober, because that took a long time. But once I got chemical free and I had that crap out of my life, there wasn't a day that I woke up that the first thought wasn't, holy crap, I don't need a fix, right? Like it would literally put a smile on my face. Even before I was sober and I was happy and life was good, even when I was still struggling, I would wake up and go, man, I'm not sick. I'm not sick. And there were times, I swear to you, people, I'd be laying in bed in a prison cell giggling. I'm not sick. I don't need this garbage. But the farther away you get from that, the more removed you get, the more you get into a normal, air quotes, normal life, it becomes easy to forget. It becomes easy to forget the trials and the tribulations and the time wasted and all of the things that were such a huge focus of your life in the first couple of weeks of being sober. Those things melt over time and you get into a routine, right? And that routine sometimes can be your worst enemy. Because if you get up every day and you don't think what a blessing it is that you're living a sober existence, well, then the first opportunity of the day to anchor your sobriety just went away. I hope you understand how huge that is. Because the more time you spend anchoring your sobriety, the safer you're going to be. When I talk about the canaries in the coal mine, when I talk about the things that I've got in my life that I've structured in such a way that it's a proclamation. This is the new Tommy, right? The old Tommy did this, and the new Tommy sure as hell is never going to do that. Or the new Tommy does this because the old one didn't. Right? All of those things that I have engineered as part of my life are there for a reason. Those repetition, those repetitious things that I do day in, day out and talk about at least once or twice a week, right? At a minimum, sometimes more than that. Those things are all in place for a reason. There's not much I do these days that is haphazard. Why? Because my entire life was haphazard, right? Where are we going to rob today? I don't know. How much gas have we got? Right? We're going to rob this place or that place. How far, did we got enough gas to head all the way to the other side of town? Because we'll hit there. I mean, every decision I made was on the fly. I mean, that was it. The small things, people. 2 days ago, I filled my car, which required, of course, a bank loan these days because but obviously gas is a lot more expensive than it used to be. But I filled up my gas tank the other day and it was, I don't know, $45 or something like that. But I thought to myself as I was sitting there putting the nozzle into the car and getting ready to select my grade of petrol, that for decades, if I had $1,000 in my pocket, I put $5 in the gas tank. True story. No matter how much money I had on me, I put $5 in the gas tank. That was my standard operating procedure. Why? Because I didn't know how long that money was going to be in my pocket. And wasn't going to do a whole lot of good in the gas tank. God forbid something happens and I've got a full tank of gas and no dope. I'd be suicidal. At that point in my life, honestly, I would be siphoning that out and trying to figure out a way to freaking sell it because that's where I had gotten to in life. So as I sit there and fill up my gas tank and I watch that thing click by 5, I'm cementing the new me. I'm cementing my sobriety. That's the anchor. And every time you miss an opportunity to think about that, you're selling yourself short. For real. And you don't need to share it with the person standing next to you. You don't have to become a freak about this. Hey, you know what? I used to only put $5 in my gas tank every time, but now I'm different, And the guy's looking at you like, who the hell is the guy in the Prius? I don't even know this dude. You don't have to, separated hybrid. You don't have to make this a proclamation, I don't have a problem with it. I wear this shirt all over the place. I love wearing this shirt, and it's amazing for any of you that have it. It's amazing how many people say to me, man, I love that shirt. And it's such a cool feeling. It really is. Because I always get, every time someone says it, I'm like, really? Have you ever seen The Lifeboat? You really ought to check it out. It's like because if you see this shirt and it clicked in your head, it was an opportunity for the guy that just said, I love your shirt, to anchor his sobriety. You get it? I mean, for real, it's an opportunity every time someone sees it. If it's just some, run of the mill, air quotes, normal guy, probably ain't gonna say anything. But those people that say, hey man, I love that shirt, it's because they're trying to live their best life. That's a person that's honestly trying to put the past in the past, and it meant enough for them to say it out loud. Subconsciously or consciously, they know that by saying it, they're anchoring their sobriety. Truthfully, don't miss these opportunities. They come up often, people, if you're looking for them. If you're not looking for them, you know what you're doing? Huh? You're still playing the repetition game, people. I promise you are. You're still playing the repetition game. Whether what I'm saying to you right now is making perfect sense or it's not making a lick of sense, you're still doing it. But if it's not making a lick of sense, what you're doing is you're anchoring the wrong direction. Because the repetition that goes in the wrong way, you are doing repetitious acts that are leading you full on headways into relapse. And I don't mean that you're going to use instantly, because relapse is a process. It means that you're not doing what it takes to remain sober. That's what relapse is, right? Getting high is the final step. That's step 5 in that relapse process. That's getting high. That's using. It's drinking, whatever your substance is. But along the way is a big slide. For those of you who have been around the lifeboat forever, I used to film from the other direction. And this is a roll top desk, and it's got this little thing that slides down, and I used to put my hand on it, and I would go, we slide, backslide, and backslide. But I used to beat it home all of the time. If you're not moving in the right direction, you're moving in the wrong direction, you're backsliding. I promise you, it's that simple. So what are you doing in your life every day now in a repetitious fashion to anchor your sobriety, to proclaim to yourself that you're a new creation, that you're a new person, and that this person doesn't get high and doesn't intend to ever again? And if you're not quite there yet, this person doesn't intend to today, right? What are you doing every day to say, I'm not going to use in the next half hour? What thoughts are you doing? What are you laying in place? Now, I have been of the firm belief for the last 6 3/4 years that by doing the exact same thing every day, I do a much better job at staying sober. This is just a stone cold fact. And that is why there is a best-selling book right now entitled Make Your Bed, right? There is a bestseller out there called Make Your Bed. I'm not going to lie. I was a little pissed when I saw it on the bookshelf. I thought, damn it, I've been saying that for years now, man. You know what I mean? I feel like maybe this guy should kick me $1 or something on every book sale, because honestly, this has been a very firm part of my belief in terms of anchoring my sobriety. And the reason that it's important to me is it's, the second or the third opportunity every day to anchor my sobriety, to do something that the old guy didn't do. The first one, I promise you people, is when my eyes open. And if you think, oh man, I don't want my first thought every single day, to have to be about staying sober in order to stay sober. Well, you can always get high, because I promise you, if your first thought in the morning isn't about how great it is to be sober, I'd be worried. I really would. That's not for dramatic purposes. That's not, feel free to disagree with me. But I know, and there are things I know, like 1 and 1 is always going to equal 2, correct? I know like 1 and 1 equals 2, that I can destroy my life in 14 days. 14 days. It's all it would take. Truthfully, the first day would kill it because I would never be able to stop after day 1. I know who I am. I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and he was talking about the possibility of maybe testing out his sobriety. For real. Just testing it out. Might just use to see whether or not, he's got this whole sobriety thing under control. I'll be honest, I was flabbergasted, but I love the guy. I'm not busting his chops. I'm not saying his name, but it was one of those situations where I thought, that is poking a very large bear with a stick through a cage that does not have a lock on it, right? It's not something you would do. If you think about it logically, it's just not something that you would do. It's going to lead to bad places, right? Everybody can agree with that. That's going to lead to really bad places. And it's painfully obvious, like a slap in the face, that that's probably not a great idea, correct? All right. On the other end of that spectrum, that is way over here on the right? And now if you go way over here on the left for Tommy Scoville, forget you people, I'm talking about me. Not making my bed when I get up, not cleaning that kitty litter, not brushing my teeth and taking a shower, not doing everything that I do in my life in that same repetition that I do to the point where I'm boring is dangerous. Is it as dangerous as me trying to test out my sobriety? No, not even close. But it's dangerous, and it's leading me in a direction away from where I want to be. Where I want to be, people, is right here. Every day in front of this thing, talking to you people and dedicating an hour of my life every single day to where I can come on here and say, I didn't use today. I'm not going to use tomorrow. And I'm here to tell everybody that is willing to listen that this is not a life that you have to go through with chemicals propping you up. That's where I want to be. And if I start messing with not doing the things that I have laid out, it's not a matter of just skipping the repetition. I am doing the exact opposite of the repetition. By not making the bed, I'm going, that's old Tommy. And I'm going back to that. I'll brush my teeth after a little while. I got something I got to do on the computer. I am going back, right? All of the things that I do in the specific order that I do is an anchor to hold my sobriety and my new life in place. It's a proclamation to myself that I have changed. The trouble, people, right, is that complacency starts to work its way into our lives. Now, hell, I got 7 years sober now almost, right? What difference does it make if I make my bed today? And what difference does it make if I make my bed tomorrow, right? If I just blow it off for a week or so, it's no big deal, right? It's making your bed. That's just not that big a deal. And you know what? I've done 420 shows. It isn't even a year. I could take Wednesday off. People, all it takes is to start not anchoring yourself. And you're going to start doing repetition in the wrong direction. You're going to start saying, it's not that big a deal. It's not that big a deal. It's only once. What's the big deal? Who cares? It's just a bed. If this sounds foreign as hell to you, if this sounds like Captain Tommy has gone crazy, let me assure you, people, that as fast as you can blink an eye, you can destroy everything that you have worked for. The most important thing in my life is and will always remain me staying sober. My job, right, to myself, my job is to put as many things in place as I possibly can to anchor my sobriety and to affirm that I'm this guy. Last night, we talked about how to deal with hate, with envy, with greed, with all these different emotions that people tend to throw your way. You realize, people, that anytime I don't interact and get involved in any of that crap, I'm anchoring my sobriety. It's another opportunity to say the old guy would have done this. The new guy doesn't. Everything that you do becomes a chance to either anchor your sobriety or to start smoking on the fast train back to exactly what you were. And if you don't believe this, people, you ask anybody in the comments section that you saw disappear for 2 months and come back. Ask them what happened. Ask any of them, because you'll get the same story. Things started going good, you know what I mean? And I started to hang out with some of the old guys that, and I thought things were pretty cool. And you know what? I started maybe catching the lifeboat once every 4 or 5 days, or a couple of weeks went by. A guy left a comment 2 days ago that said, you know what? I thought I had everything under control and I stopped hanging out here. And now I'm back because I relapsed. Right? People, it's a matter of doing things again and again and again. That gentleman whose name will remain anonymous and I were having a conversation. This is a guy that lost about 130 pounds, right? That's a lot of weight. I think everybody can agree that is a stink load of weight. And we were talking about some of the health benefits, and his blood pressure is so low that when he hits the little device, you know how it says your diastolic is, his thing says, I think you need to replace the batteries. You know what I mean? Like he was, I think he said 117 over something. I mean, the numbers were so low, it was incredible. And we were talking about how fantastic that is. But there's a part of him that's nervous because this goal has been such a part of his life for so long that when you hit that final rung of that goal and you take care of it, well, there's going to be a whole lot of repetition that goes away, right? Because you've been doing one thing the exact same way for so long. And you start thinking, is that really just an anchored part of my sobriety? And am I going to be in trouble? Do I have to get down to 110 pounds? Am I going to walk around at 80 pounds because it's been perfect up to this point? Maybe I should just keep trying to lose weight. You can set goals. You can achieve those goals. You can continue to set more goals, because setting goals is definitely not something that you do when you're on drugs. There's only one goal when you're on drugs: to do more drugs, right? They used to say that marijuana steals people's ambition, right? I heard a joke in a movie once where the guy said, well, not if your ambition is to smoke pot. And it's funny. It's a punchline. It's a good joke. But God, it's true, right? Like, heroin completely destroyed every ambition in my life except doing heroin, which was the only thing in my life that was important. Now I have to live my life in such a way that it screams I'm a new person. And I have to take every single stinking opportunity that I can to affirm that new person. Hope this is making sense, people. And if it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse, I have yet begun to beat this horse, because I really truthfully feel like this is a light bulb moment. This is epiphany kind of stuff. 2 nights ago, I started talking about the fact that I was in relapse. No mistake. I didn't get high, right? I hadn't progressed even to number 2 or number 3. But I was definitely heading in the wrong direction. And it was painfully obvious why. And it's not just the canary in coal mine. It's not just the daily ritual stuff. It was the thought processes. I was beginning to take my sobriety for granted. That's a bad thing. That is a really, really bad thing. It should be the most valuable possession that you have. I don't care if you got a Ferrari. I don't care if you're wearing a $400,000 wristwatch. Your prized possession better be the fact that you don't do drugs, or you can put a for sale sign on that Ferrari and that watch. And you might take 2 grams for it in a bad state of mind. I've seen worse. I really have. If you're not living every day, if you're not living each moment of every day as a proclamation of the fact that you're a new person and that you're living a better life and a new life, then your repetition is going in the wrong direction. And every day you're taking a small step back toward who you used to be. For real. Now, as far as hard and fast ritual behavior, like making your bed, like having a routine, All I can do, people, is give you my personal opinion on this. And that's the same with everything, really. But on having a routine, I believe that sobriety loves routine. I believe that addiction abhors it. The only routine that addiction enjoys is the actual act of getting high. It can't stand. I mean, just look at how many addicts have full-time jobs. Look at how many addicts have a significant other to come home and talk to. No, see, that's way too structured, right? When you're an addict, someone's saying to you, well, you got to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday, and you got to stay there until 5 o'clock. Okay. What happens if I run out of dope? And I got a score. You may have to let me leave for 2 or 3 hours a day, at least 2 or 3 times a week, right? Nothing works. When you're strung out, there's nothing that you can do to structure your life. If you can sit, people, and I've said this, I don't know, a couple of 100 times on the lifeboat, pretty good chance I'm going to say it a couple of 100 times more. But if you can say to yourself, I never did this when I was using, that should be something that you continue to do. Make it a part of your routine. Make it something that is a repetitive thing that's part of your life, because chances are it's an anchor. If you can say, boy, you know what? I used to do this all the time when I was high. It's still an anchor, but it's in the wrong direction. If you're doing the same things that you used to do when you were high, and your only thing that you remove from the equation is drugs, the drugs will be back soon. I promise you. I mean, that's just, there's no way to debate this. If you're doing the exact same things, but you're doing them sober now, pretty soon you'll be doing them high. I mean, not trying to be cold-hearted, just no point in sugarcoating it either. If you think that you're just going to maintain the exact lifestyle that you had when you were a drug addict and you're just going to subtract the drugs, the drugs will be back. They'll be back soon. So start to develop a routine. One of the reasons that I talk so much about journaling is it's the ultimate in routine. It really is. It's your chance at the end of the day to talk about your routine during the day. Make sense? It's an opportunity for you to write down the things that went well during the day and the things that didn't.
I would say
Plain and
this.
simple.
I would say this too, Tommy. That the lifeboat is part of routine.
Oh yeah.
I think it's a big part of all of us anyway that are here daily. Because I don't know. I know you probably feel the same way, but I feel different when I don't. There's times when I know you feel it where we don't want to like do a show right at that second or whatever. But once we get started and once we get going, we're better for it because it makes me feel better every time. I mean, there's no question. So
and I'm glad you said that, Mark. I really am. Because it's poignant and it's right on point. Because it's a great example, people, of ritual and routine. Every single night we come here at 6 o'clock, right before, right after, whatever, and we do our show. And we would be absolutely BSing you in a really huge way if we didn't tell you that there are days we both look at each other and go, oh God, you know what? This is one I'd like to take off. Like, this is just, I've been having the day from hell. I don't want to be here. I've never heard either of us talk like that after a show.
Never. That has never happened, Tommy. That's what I'm saying.
And it's a fact.
Yeah.
It's a fact. And it's a perfect example, people, of why routine and ritual works. It pulls us out of mindsets that aren't good. And I'm not picking on Mark. I as many times, I would say it's probably a good 50-50 split. If one of us has said it more than the other, I honestly couldn't tell you who. But both of us have had those days. Oh, yeah. And they're not, I mean, this is not a ritual that happens often. This is few and far in between. But there have been days that I looked at him and just went, you know what? If ever I could skip one, this would be it. But by the end of it, we're always going, you know what, man? That was a pretty good show.
Yep.
Pretty happy that we did this. I'm glad, that was a good one. And you start like this, and by the end of it, you're going, yeah. You know what I mean? And that's just part of a lot of times when we do that, we start off like thinking, hey, man, I don't want to be here. Then it ends up being one of the best shows we ever do. It's crazy how that one
works.
In particular that I absolutely remember. honestly, I was wondering if you would say it or I would, but there was definitely one show where, and I won't tell you what show it is because you'll go back and watch it and you'll try to view it through a different eye. But there was definitely a show that we. It was one of those rare days where neither of us could sort of lift up the other one.
Yeah.
Very oftentimes if Mark's having a bad day, I'm not. Or if I'm having a bad day, Mark's not. And we can usually sort of, this was one of those days where both of us were like, oh man, you know what, screw this. Like just did not want to be here and did not want to do it. And it's probably really a great indicator of the crew. I don't know whether everybody felt it or what the deal is, but the energy in the chat and everything, it was just one of those shows where everybody was engaged. And we got to the end of it, and there was honestly a little discussion afterwards that was almost guilt-like.
Yeah,
you know
I remember that now. Yeah, I know exactly
where we were
about.
Like, oh, man, you know what?
Man, we almost skipped out on this.
We didn't even want to do this.
Yeah.
But people, that's such a perfect illustration, and it's such a perfect point. Because I'll tell you something, I would be lying to you if I told you I enjoy making my bed. I don't. I don't like making my bed. I don't like anything about it. But the second that it's done, I'm glad that I did it. It's me saying it's a metaphor for life, right? Think of all of the things in life that you have to do that aren't a hell of a lot of fun. I just heard a statistic about this. This is true. We were in the car listening to this the other day. They said that less than 5% of the population of our country here in the US say that they like their job. Imagine. Yeah. So 95% of the people who get up every day and work for 40 hours a week and get their paycheck hate what they're doing.
Yeah.
But you have to do it, right? You got to get up. You got to go to work. It's part of, it's not something I recommend, right? Try to do something that, and I think that, as much as the work, I think for a lot of people, they're just not very happy. You know what I mean? I promise you, people, when you're really clicking, everyone goes, well, you're working with watches. You're doing exactly what you like. People, if you ever saw any of the stuff I put up on Instagram back in the day, where I was crawling through the bowels of a ship. I'm claustrophobic. I have been my entire life. Dude. And I'm crawling through these little baffles that look like the Bruce Willis scene in Die Hard. And I took the camera and I put it on and I'm laughing through that whole damn thing. Because the other option was to be miserable and it was going to get worse. And I knew it was going to get worse. And I just tried to sort of make the best of the situation. And I remember thinking to myself, you know what? I'm filming this. Because number one, no one's ever going to believe it. And number two, if I don't, I'm just going to pee and moan down here. And, at least I can get a chuckle out of this, I was like, they asked for a volunteer. I thought I was going over to work on the, they said, who wants to work on the big ship? I said, big ship,
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing in this life, people, right? It's going to be a routine. If you're not 100% loving your job, go in there and make it better by being that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can.
It's a choice.
Because you can. It is.
It's a choice. Happiness is not promised or given. You have to choose it and take it. I mean, that's just what it has to be, guys. I mean, again, we'd be sitting up here just blowing smoke up your butt if we said we were happy every day. I mean, that's just not going to happen. We're not unhappy. We're not happy every day. We're both. And when you get the unhappy stuff, that's when you react. And that's why we talk about the things we do. Because it's grooming us to be able to react the correct way.
Did you see Miss Urban Hill, Kentucky?
Yeah.
She said, I sleep on my couch, I roll up my sleeping bag, I set it on the back of the couch, I set my pillow on the arm, and I think of Tommy making his bed.
Love it, man.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Enjoy. That's a routine.
Exactly.
Right? Sounds to me very much like you've got this thing down. I like it.
Yeah,
I hope that I'm a part of that.
That's awesome. But Michelle says, I can't find anything to make for goals. Well, I typed in there, I'll just verbalize it now. Start small, guys. It doesn't have to be something huge. Like I typed in there, and a good one and I don't want to stereotype or anything, but for women especially, an adult coloring book. I mean, just stuff like that's going to keep your mind busy, your hands moving. There's things now called diamond paintings. I'm not sure if you guys have seen those. My daughter has a TikTok channel, and she actually has one video. She's doing a Titanic one, and it has like over 100,000 views on it. So I mean, what I'm saying, yeah, and it's pretty cool stuff, and it's neat stuff, right? And she's got one for me that's a Yoda she's making, so it's pretty cool. So I'm gonna,
So it seems to be a recurring theme, the Star Wars.
Yep.
Hands out Vegemite sandwiches to everyone. Thank you, V.
Yeah.
It's not ever going to happen, but thank you. No, people. And as far as goal setting, here's my advice to you on this, Michelle. One of the things that plagued me in the beginning of my sobriety was the exact same thing that you're talking about. Everybody I knew, especially because of where I was, there was a lot of goal setting going on in there. Everybody was going to be working out for 2 hours a day, or they were, trying to get an education, because when you're incarcerated, you're either sitting there and dying, or you're trying to move forward. And I didn't have, I was suffering from something called anhedonia. And when you give up opiates, especially in the beginning, you don't have the ability to feel joy. Truthfully, it's called anhedonia, and this happens to a lot of people. If you've been on opiates long enough, you're not going to be able to generate the kind of brain chemical needed to feel joy, at least in the beginning. And that's just kind of the way it is. And it's one of the reasons why so many people fail, is because they get through that initial kick, right, of going through the withdrawal and all of that, and they're expecting nirvana. They want the sun to come out, and they want the moment, and it's just everything's going to be perfect. And you can't find joy in the simplest of things. And for some people, it could take a couple of years before that anhedonia starts to wear off. So what you need to do in terms of setting goals, sometimes you have to just set goals for things that aren't going to make you happy. And that's something most people just straight don't want to do. It doesn't make any sense. Why would I want to set a goal to do something that I don't even enjoy? But I got very into that. That's how I got my college degree. I didn't want to be in there doing that at all. But the other option was to be heading back in the wrong direction. And I knew that for me. Like I knew very early on that if I wasn't moving forward, especially where I was going to be moving backwards. There was 138 people in my city, so to speak. And my city was a small little room that was locked up. It wasn't even 100 yards long. And there were about 9 dope dealers in that city. And I knew that I had to get out of there as often as I possibly could. So my goal of getting a degree was because I left that facility. I mean, it was really only a couple of 100 yards down a hallway, but I was out of that room. I was out of that mindset. And for a period of time, I was gone. And from there, I got a job working at a place called Unicor. I was making uniforms for the different armed forces branches, and I was making a big, whopping 16 to 19 cents an hour when I first started, which was an insult, right? You're working 50 hours a week and not making enough money to buy, anything. But for 8 hours a day, I was a factory worker. For 8 hours a day, I wasn't a convict sitting in his cell looking at other people who were convicts. I had something that I had to do. Did I enjoy it? Hell no. I didn't. But I liked getting out of that mindset. Yep. And over a period of time, I'm not going to lie to you people, it took me a very long time for the anhedonia thing. And for me, Suboxone did wonders for fixing that problem. Once I was able to paint the receptors in my brain with a substance to convince them that they no longer had to haunt me, then all of that kind of went away. And once you start to get those feelings back, goal setting becomes accidental.
Yep.
You'll go, "Ooh, I want to do this," and the next thing you know, you have set goals for yourself. But in the beginning, it's even if it doesn't feel right, it's just something you got to power through.
I would second everything you just said. I mean, honestly, it's just something that, you're right on point with that. That is so. That it doesn't have to be big. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
it doesn't at all.
Just do something. I mean, I don't care if you got to get up and today I'm going to set a goal. I'm going to walk to the corner and back. I mean, it can really be that small, guys. Or hey, I'm going to use, I don't know, whatever to clean the house real quick or sweep the floor, whatever that, whatever normal activity can, make you feel like you're accomplishing something. Like, you know, like sweeping the floor. I mean, for me, if my floor's dirty, I'm jacked in the head. I'm sorry, guys. It's just me. You know, if there's stuff on the floor, it literally bugs me until I get up and sweep the floor. I'm not talking like clean freak stuff. I'm talking just like a piece of paper or something that's on the floor or whatever. It bugs me, and other people it doesn't. So if I get up and I go if I make it a routine, it helps. It puts it in my brain. Hey, I had something that was bothering me, and I took care of that. So I accomplished the goal. Whether I'm like chalking it up,
huge.
Yeah.
No, and that's absolutely huge. As silly as it sounds, people, that's how the bed started. I kid you not. Yep. When I was working with Q, and you guys, if you've been around the boat long enough, you know who Q was. And when I remember going over and talking to him, and he, you know, we were sitting down for the first lesson about sobriety and everything else, and he said he had told me to bring a pad and a pencil. So I was going to be taking some notes, and I said, all right. So I walked in, and this was even before make the 3 pages that I talked to you about. I came in, and he goes, are you ready to roll? I said, all right. I said, yeah, I'm ready to go. He goes, all right, let's go down to your cell. I'm like, oh, we're going to do this down in my cell? And he said to me, yeah, well, no, we're going to start over there. And we walked in, and he just said to me, this is how you make your bed? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you just cover this enough so that when they go by, they're not going to write you up for having a bed that's not made. And I said, man, that's how everybody, you know, here makes a bed. You don't really make the bed. You just make it look so that it'll pass an inspection. And he was like, come look at my bed. And, you know, to say it was ridiculous would be an understatement. Like, I would say he probably takes 25 minutes to make his bed. And I never became that cat. Yeah. I didn't.
Marine style, for
real. Like, everything was measured. And when I said to him, what is the big deal? And he said, it's the first thing of the day that I set a goal and complete. And I'm like, well, how hard is it to make a bed? He goes, well, apparently pretty difficult. You can't do it. You know? And so obviously, he said, but more importantly, to me, he said, I don't just make my bed. There are 1,300 people in this facility. I make the best bed in this facility. He said, until the day I die, no matter where they send me, I will make the best bed in that facility. May seem silly as crap, right? But it isn't. It really isn't. It's the opportunity for you to say, I'm going to do something and I'm going to do it right. And when it's done, your day starts with a triumph. As silly as it may sound, your day starts with a triumph. You just set a goal, you just accomplished it. And you know what? Repetition causes those things to keep happening. You know, in sales, they would say to you, make sure that you get the person to say yes 8 or 9 times before you ask for the money. Because anything you continually do, it feels very uncomfortable to then go in the other direction. So you understand what I'm talking about? Yes. Right? Okay. And you just keep getting the yes. Can I ask you a question? Yes, 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 yes. You ready to do this? No. No one's ready to do that because the repetition is something that our brains get used to. So just get into the habit, get into the mindset of doing the smallest things and doing them at the exact same time. Brushing your teeth can be a damn goal. And people, if you laugh and think that that's ridiculous, I promise you, as a junkie, I brushed my teeth when I got around to it. Like, that was just my life. And if I didn't get to it that day, oh well. Yeah. The important thing was that I was going to put 6 grams of heroin into my body. That was the only thing that mattered. So now in my life, every single thing that I decide is going to matter, I'm going to keep doing every single day. Because it's so much more important than just the act of whatever it is I'm doing.
That's so on point. I mean, and again, when the toothbrush comment, that is, guys, that's not something that's just we're breezing over there. That's the God's honest truth. Drug addicts and people that are in a very bad place mentally, having some issues with that, both of those, they fight hygiene issues because that's not high on their list. So those kinds of things definitely can become a goal. And it just will. Think about yourself for a second and be like, hey, am I feeling bad today? What did I do the day I was feeling bad? Did I get up and, go clean myself and go clean the house, or did I just sit there? Most of the time, the answer is going to be, I just sat there. And that starts clicking in your brain if you're just thinking about it. And it starts, like I said, to Michelle earlier, it starts small, guys. You don't have to start with spring cleaning. You can start with washing the plate off before you put it in the dishwasher. I mean,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? It can really be that small, but it builds, and it's just like, taking it 1 second at a time. And
What a great illustration too. If you say, I've never thought about it in these terms, but like the worst I've felt in the last 4 or 5 years was certainly my C plus math episode. That was horrendous. I don't think I showered for the 4 days that I was struggling with that. It was not something I couldn't drag myself, to the bathroom to do that. I don't remember whether or not I brushed my teeth. I may have, I may not have, but I certainly wasn't doing anything. And it's a great illustration. When you're at your worst and you're feeling really sick, what are the things that you do? Well, then you got to really try to do everything other than that, right? Because that mindset, it all starts to perpetuate itself. And if you've ever been in one of those positions, the first day you really start to feel better, and the first day you really start to crawl out of that, what's the first thing you do?
Oh, you get in the shower. Get in the shower every time.
Yep. And you'll even say to people, how are you feeling? A lot better.
Oh, man,
I was able to get up, take a shower. Yeah. That really makes a lot of sense.
And and like I said, we as a society, we kind of just breeze over those simple things because it's kind of it's an expected thing. We know we all do it, so we kind of ignore it.
Take it for granted.
Yeah. And those of us in recovery, that's a big thing for all of us. It really is. And
no question.
And I would challenge anybody to watch any kind of YouTube video or anything about rehabilitation or somebody that's sharing their addiction with the world. You're going to notice that their hygiene changes. And if you go back and just watch, I mean, it really does. I can't remember the name. I'll try to remember it later. But there was a big name YouTuber, and she was an addict for like the first 2 years of her channel. And then after. So you get a good before and after of what she was and is. And it's amazing. It's amazing that the transformation that you don't even realize that's happening to yourself.
No doubt. But
Michelle, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you started talking tonight. I really am. I'm glad you were in there. It's good to talk to you. I'm glad you feel comfortable enough to speak to us and speak out.
And I will say this: Michelle has reached out to me, and I think Michelle is on the right track. I really do.
Oh, good.
We've had a couple of a really good conversation that we talked for a while, and I have high hopes. I have very high hopes.
She's been here before, right? I mean, in the chat.
Yes, absolutely. She's been following you for a long time. But
for me? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She's a long-time follower of Wages Work.
I'm sorry about that, guys. Sometimes there's so many people I can't screen names. Sometimes I'll forget. Yeah.
You know what else? She had said when we talked that spends a lot more time. We don't use the L word anymore, right? We don't say lurking. We say observing.
Okay.
So she said spends a lot more time observing than talking. And then the other night when we were doing a show, it was about 4 or 5 days ago. She said, it struck her, and she, felt the need to talk then, and since then has been far more active. Though. And you know what? That's a good habit.
Yep.
It really is. It's a good habit. Whether you're on the lifeboat or you're anywhere else, talking about the things in sobriety that are hurting you is shining a light in a dark place. It really is, and it works. I promise you, this is as hard and fast a rule as you will ever come across. The more that you share, the better you're going to feel. And it's one of the reasons that this here we call Plan B, right? Because it's a whole lot easier to share here. You're not expected to do it in front of a camera or a microphone. Well, unless you get that. If you feel that that's something that you want to share, we absolutely would love to have you. But most people.
And speaking on that, just real quick before we shut her down here, Alan, we was talking in the chat earlier. He says he's willing to come back on and share some more of his story. So we'll probably be setting that up.
Oh, awesome!
So
awesome! I would absolutely love that. You know what? I would absolutely love that.
I tell you what, out of all the stuff we've done, Alan, you're right at the top, and so is Chris. I mean, everybody that we've interviewed. I mean, for me, it's
the best part of the life.
Yeah, it is.
There's no question.
It really is, man. So much.
Question.
That's what keeps us going.
Yep, Dr. Jetmore. I mean, every single interview that we've done, going back to the very beginning, I can't think of one that we didn't end and say, boy, that was just absolutely incredible, wasn't
Ripper,
it?
yeah, Rip. My God, man. You know, like Chris is in here right now. You guys go. You won't go the rest of your life and ever hear an ex-drug dealer tell the world he's sorry. You just won't. You're not going to hear that nowhere, and that's what Chris did, and that's so awesome.
And you know, people,
So
I'm
awesome.
gonna mention this because this you may think this is inconsequential, but it is not. Swiss Vape said he was having a real bad day, and as opposed to really wanted to drink, and instead went with the Carolina Reaper. People, there are things that you can do in this life that will release endorphins into your body that will have incredible effects on you. There is absolutely no way to debate it. And and one of the you can't see what I'm seeing, but that was a family moment. It was nice. The Carolina Reaper will give you an endorphin dump like very few things in the entire world. Trust me, this is something I know a little something about. And yeah, you made a great decision, my friend. Way better decision. And
Proud of you, man.
Yep, you will definitely get a body and mind change, something fierce, by eating a Carolina Reaper. And for those of you not aware, that is the hottest pepper on the planet. There are people who will debate that, and there's no reason to get into that. But the hottest ever tested and verified
Guinness Book of World Record type of
Guinness
thing.
Book of World's Record.
Yep.
There are a couple of them that are really hot that haven't been tested yet. And there are people, my brother is one who thinks there might be some hotter peppers out there. But as of right now, on paper, the Carolina Reaper is definitely the hottest. So, yeah. And as far as, they said be really careful with that. You're not going to die from capsaicin. You just might feel like you're going to die from capsaicin, but which is why you get the endorphin dump that you do. True story. Your brain thinks this is it. It's all over with the crying, right? Because that level of pain is so unique that the body just floods you with endorphins. But way better than drinking. Good decision, my friend.
Yep.
And that, people, brings us to the top of the hour. You know what's funny? We were going to start this thing a little early.
Then we go late.
And then we ended up, see, perfect example
right.
of just what we were talking about, though, is it not?
Yep. I got a microwave. We're good.
Seventh Son says, Lord Kiss Freak, cap cramps are no joke. People, if that's not on a bumper sticker, it should be. I'm leaving with that. For real, I will end with that. If that's not on a bumper sticker, it ought to be. Good call, Seventh Son. People, we love you. We really do. We will be back tomorrow night, same bat time, same bat channel, doing the same bat thing. I am Captain Tommy Scoble, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
And this, people, this is a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.